Ladies and gentlemen, much has happened in the last month of 2024. Fists have flown in Parliament, blood has been spilled, the Constitution of India has become a controversy, and the list of people demanding temples under mosque surveys is only growing longer. As we enter the last week of the year, we are delighted to welcome Abhishek Manu Singhvi on the show. He's a Congress MP, he's a member of Parliament, and he's one of India's most high-profile lawyers. Mr. Singhvi, thank you very much for your time here on Mirror Now. Let me start by asking you how you view this Akhada-style politics in Parliament in the last 48 hours. It has ended with the BJP filing an attempt to murder charge against Rahul Gandhi. By the looks of it, everything is fair in love, fair in war, and fair in politics.
First reaction, extremely sad, extremely anguished. I've now been privileged to be in this temple of democracy for over 18 years. And standards are not that high when I entered, but they are now sliding abysmally minute by minute, day by day. And that saddens me institutionally. Number two, if it was not tragic and not serious, it would be laughable what is being done. I mean, there's a limit to how and which way I will frame you, I will defame you, I will belittle you and stigmatize you. Rahul Gandhi, even his worst enemies in their heart know he's the last person you will find on the steps of Parliament or in the vicinity of Parliament going up to a person that age and far less, much less pushing him, touching him even. This is a complete... I don't understand why you are not shared the video cameras. Simple. I mean, let's forget all this thing. Let's forget all. You know, there is a limit to the lack of logicality in this. Everything is not political. Everything is not personal. Everything is not bala fide. Everything is not interpersonal. There has to be some logic and substance. I can convict you in 30 seconds seeing those videos, and I can acquit you in equally 30 seconds seeing those videos. And who is in the peculiar possession and control of the videos? Does anybody know law? I hope the best minds are advising the government of the day. Does anybody know the meaning of attempt to murder? Does anybody know the meaning of mens rea? I have to not only do an act like hitting you or doing something, but I have to have the intent to kill you. I mean, is it not bizarre? As I said, it would be laughable, comic, if it was not so serious and tragic. And what level of discourse are you? Even the bad things you do require some intelligence, some tuk. The horrible things you are doing are betuki, they are kutarki. So I have no words to describe it. What do I do?
Okay, is it also betuka, according to you, given the other charge that has been made against Rahul Gandhi? A woman MP from Nagaland has accused him of coming too close to her and making her uncomfortable. She has now even complained to the Rajya Sabha chair. Are you saying even those charges are frivolous, betuka, motivated?
I believe that this is more than ridiculous. And if there is a comparative hierarchy between your first facet, the attempt to murder, and this one, I would call this even worse, laughable and comic. If you suffer from some delusions and you have a feeling inside you, am I responsible for that? Assuming you have the feelings. I'm not at all accepting. I'm just assuming. Is that the way to frame a criminal charge? I respect such people from the Northeast very much. I don't know the lady in question at all. But I would request with folded hands that let's not get drawn into politics like this. I am coming around you and I'm making you feel uncomfortable, so you file a criminal or a charge, or you go into the cameras. I mean, there are 1,000 people standing around you. You're meeting every day in Parliament. It's sad. At least pick your battles more intelligently.
Okay, sir, let us then come to something Parliament should have debated, but hasn't because they were busy in WWF type activities. One nation, one election. It's something that impacts 1.4 billion people of this country. On paper, Mr. Singhvi, one nation, one poll seems like a good idea. It'll save us money and it'll save us time. Why is the opposition then up in arms against it? Is it only for the sake of opposing everything that the government does?
I agree with you entirely. in the first part of what you said. This thing has gained currency, and Mr. Modi is pushing it because on the face of it, superficially, it seems to have some plausibility. And I've just said in interviews that it actually has apparent plausibility in the drawing room classes, in the chattering classes, or the chatterati as it's called. The reason is it appeals to your and my sense of uniformity, discipline. Everything is ordered. The I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And everything is orderly. One nation, one election. Great. Now, actual reality, it's absolutely a weird idea. Why, I'll tell you. Let's take them one by one. First and foremost, it is based on a simple premise. This so-called committee, which has, by the way, not been tasked with the desirability or the if question. It was asked how. So I'm asking Shreya, tell me how to do it, not whether it should be done. So Shreya comes up with the how, because you're tasked with that. Now the committee in that task does only one simple thing. It says, you have a cycle of 5 years. You press the reset button in 2029. I'm giving an example. And you have a cycle of 5 years. A state government A or B falls in 2031. You press the law into motion, and the 31 election has to be held in 31, but only till 34. That's it. So the balance term, it synchronizes. So far, so good theory. In this process, what are you doing? The chap who falls in 2031, the chap who's elected in 2031, his term is curtailed by law to 3 years. It is a violation, and this is mostly applying to state elections. It's a violation of regional parties. It's a violation of state rights. It is a violation of all those MLAs' rights. And it is an assault on federalism, which, by the way, is a part of the basic structure. Also, this whole desire of the drawing room classes and chattering classes to ignore that democracy itself is based on uncertainty, chaos, spontaneity. How do you take care of the fickle loyalties of MLAs? The worst culprit in which regard of the 10th schedule is the ruling party. Classic irony that they are passing one nation, one election. How many governments have fallen by allurements? What a mockery you made of the 10th schedule. Then arises the question, how many times will you press the reset button? You see, at the moment, it's very alluring to say, okay, ek do sarkar girega, usme ek do button ek baar press karenge. If this fickleness spreads across 6 states, you had a natural synchronization till 67. No problem. Even today, suppose the election commission finds that one election should normally be held in March, and Shreya's election should be held in April, and Singhvi's election should be held in May. It can always synchronize. That much is okay. But by compulsion of law, I will give you 2 years term if you follow the 3rd year. By compulsion of law, I'll give you 1 year's term if you follow the 4th year. That's the reset button. So a compulsion of law is overriding the sovereign majority will of the people on which democracy is based. Is it not violation of the basic structure? And one very important point. I was astonished to find, at least I don't know what they'll do when the bill actually comes back, but at least the narrative being circulated is that you don't need a state ratification. Now, do you need to be a lawyer, Shreya, or do you need rocket science to understand that you are having a cycle of state elections affected? It is first and foremost state elections affected. You are having a cycle of MLAs affected. You are having a cycle of states affected. And you will not seek state ratification. Then the answer given to that is you got Article 82. And does it suggest that 82 will trump 368? 368 says you must consult and ratify through states if states are affected. The most entity affected in this is the state. And you are not going to ask its ratification on some perverse reasoning of 82. Does 82 say that it will override 368? Can one constitutional provision without express amendment get out of existence 368? So therefore, these are things which are, I don't know, it seems to be a vanity obsession of a former chief minister of Gujarat, which is carried on to the central government. And therefore, a Common Committee say how, not if. And you do it by law because you may have the majority. At the moment, it doesn't look to me at all that you have the majority. And certainly, if you do it without state ratification, it will be struck down, I have no doubt. There are other rounds of striking it down, basic structure, a undoing or the negation of the this democratic will, Last 2 points, very quickly, since your time is limited on this subject. Expense, another bogey. Let me tell you, there is no study telling you that you save expenses. So you see, the number of elections are the same. There's no change in the number of elections. 10 का 11 हो जाएगा, 10 का 9 हो जाएगा. It's only synchronization. If you want to save, if you are genuinely giving this bogey of saving, and let me tell you, the Covid Committee's figure of 1 to 1.5% GDP has no basis because they've not given any data. They've not given any methodology. I can say I estimate today to save 1 to 1.5 of GDP. Where is the methodology? Where is the data? Now, if you want to save, why don't you employ more one-time investment in EVMs? I'm not in the EVM debate. I'm saying since you're using EVMs, have 1,000 more EVMs, 1 billion more EVMs, and reduce the election cycle from 7 weeks to 4 weeks. That will save a huge amount of money. That is saving. The only virtue I find partially in this is that the MCC will be less active. Now, the MCC will not necessarily be less active if you have these multiple reset buttons or multiple times. But yes, there will be some reduction. Well, if there is some reduction, so be it. Okay. The MCC is designed for something totally different. It was designed for a level playing field in elections. This is the price, the democracy tax you pay. This is the democracy price you pay. And we jolly well should be happy paying it if we are having genuine democracy and not artificially law-mandated, executive-controlled, orderly, drawing room, uniform democracy.
Okay, fair point. There is an argument on the other side, and given the fact that two sides differ so much on it, possibly the matter will reach the Supreme Court as well. Mr. Singhvi, Sambhal is in the headlines once again, given that the ASI has busied itself with another round of surveys. How do we view what the Supreme Court has said and done on the Places of Worship Act? On one hand, all temples under mosque surveys have been halted for the moment by the Supreme Court. You were a lawyer in that case. And on the other hand, the recently retired Chief Justice of India, Chandrachud, has made an observation about how the Act actually does not bar the ascertainment of the religious character of a structure as it was on August 15th, 1947. Is the Supreme Court confused or am I confused?
I think there's no confusion. A period of confusion arose by the actual activity, not so much by the Supreme Court. Let me explain this, and then let me tell you something else after that. It is crystal. What is the confusion? It is crystal clear that an act was created to give a quietus. It is crystal clear that the object of the act is to draw a line. It is crystal clear that the line gives a one-time, all-time exemption for Ayodhya. It is crystal clear that the object is that every time I dig under your house, I will find something else. So I am accepting, people don't realize, I accept that many places of worship, let us say mosques, do have temples. I am a Jain, they have Jain temples. You are a Buddhist, you have Buddhist temples. If you dig long enough in India, you will find something maybe below the Jain temple also. Now the question is, a legislative decision was taken that how far back will you go? Because logically, you should then demolish the Taj Mahal. At least find out by a survey what is this below the Taj Mahal, forget demolition. Logically, you must find out what is beneath the Qutub Minar. We know it's a Jain temple. Now, so what? I assume it was a Jain temple. My question to myself is, so what? If you are a country which wants to look at employment, at price, at prosperity, at $1 trillion economy, my object in the 1991 Act is not to allow energies plus positive, reasonable, but more important, mischievous elements from getting into this. So I drew a line. Second aspect, that line has stood the test of time. That stands today. It's a legislation. Unless and until you disturb the legislation by overriding it, it remains the law of the land. There are now petitions trying to override it. I have no problem. Tomorrow you are the judge, you strike it down. I have no problem. Then yes, you can argue what you're doing. Point number 3. That law remains exactly as it is. The judgment, one judgment in between remains the way it is. The act remains as it is. This is one set of oral observations by the former learned Chief Justice. Oral. That's not the law. That's not the judgment. Saying that while it may ban actual reconstruction or restructuring, it may not ban finding out what is there. Now, that can't be the basis in a so-called friendly government environment which believes only in these unsettling things. that because he made an oral observation, every Tom, Dick and Harry is going to every mandir or mosque or place of worship. For example, I cannot imagine that Ajmer Sharif is being talked about to find out something else. Now you have these, there are apparently, I believe, 19 suits or 19 places of worship with 10, 12 suits. But I can multiply them 100-fold. Now, the point is the oral observation can't be the basis. This is encouragement by the executive authority of those states. It is encouragement by the central government. Point number 4. This matter came 2 weeks ago. I have been privileged to argue it as one of the lead counsel. Me and Mr. Raju Ramsar were the two main people who argued it. A very sensible, reasonable, very mature and a deep order was passed as an interim order. Nobody knows which way the judgment will go. Ultimately, you, the court, will strike it down. Fair enough. You will uphold it. Fair enough. But till then, they said 2 things. You will not have new suits registered. Reasonable. But the second is much more important. You will not go further on what you are doing. And the words used are no effective order by a court, either interim or final. Now, note 2 things. One, if you apply that oral observation of the former learned chief, that's for whom I have genuine and immense respect, I would like to give an analogy. It amounts to that Shreya Dhoundial is completely barred from going out of her house to attend a dinner by law, by the 1991 law. But she can discuss all the dresses she can wear if she were to go out. And the survey should find out which is the best dress which suits her, by which she can go. What's the point of finding your dresses if you can't go out for dinner? If the final act is barred, why should the prior acts not be barred? So therefore, that is the fallacy in the oral observation. But today, if there was a non-BJP government in a state or in the center, do you think anybody would have the guts to try and play around like this? And what are you doing? You're not giving any largesse to these minorities. You're not giving any great benefit. You are only calming their nerves that, look, hamare jitne bhi masjid hai, sabko todne ja rahe ho kya? Is that the way for a country to prosper? India is planet Earth's most diverse spot. And I said in Parliament in my speech recently on the Constitution, I said the more important thing is not what happened with the court. More important is what was the argument of the central government in the court on the place of worship. The argument is don't pass the interim order. So you want this utla patli to go on. You want this asthirtha to continue. You want this instability and thrive on it. Create a climate of divisiveness, distrust, even while the court is deciding it in the next 2-3 months. Even for that period, you want this to go on because it's a fertile ground to sow your seeds of political rotis, to bake your political rotis.
But sir, the RSS chief has just yesterday stepped out to say that people need to stop using, stirring up this temple under mosques issue, essentially saying, leave mosques in India alone. The Ram Mandir has been built, now just leave all mosques alone. He's come out and said that publicly.
So what is the meaning of preaching without practice? Has the Prime Minister said so? Do you know that if you do a small little thing against the wishes of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, they will give such a statement that you will start trembling. If this particular class of people is doing it, got a stern message from the Prime Minister or the Honorable Home Minister, the 2 top people in this country, only an oral message. Do you think it can happen? Do you think any chief minister, and you know which chief ministers I'm talking about, would encourage it? Mr. Mohan Bhagwat makes a general statement once in a while, once every 3 or 4 months. Those who make a preachy statement have no intent to practice it. Please walk the talk. Deeds matter, not words. But here, words are enough. If the number 1 and number 2 are only to make the right noises, it will be enough. But these are once in a blue moon, some kind of a small little statement to just kind of create a counterbalance so that we are all right, we are not for it. Who are doing this? Who are the people who are doing all this?
Okay.
Are they strangers? They are affiliated to you. They are your proxies. They are your direct members. They are your senior ministers. They are your junior karyakartas. Do you need rocket science to find that out? Let's be upfront. This is on the most serious assaults on the fabric of the nation. India is planet Earth's most diverse spot. We have more languages, more smells, sounds, rituals, religions than any other. But all these words, salad bowl and melting pot, are useless words compared to what you see in India. It's far beyond that. You are creating a Frankenstein monster. Get above politics and think of what you're doing and for what purpose.
Okay, Mr. Singhvi, by the looks of it, the Supreme Court is going to be very busy in the coming year in 2025. Lots of things to debate there. Thank you, Mr. Singhvi, for your time here on Mirror Now. Always a pleasure to speak to you and get your point of view across. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's a wrap from me. Thank you for watching.